Hey guys, today I'm going to do a book talk on Clockwork Prince by Cassandra Clare. So Clockwork Prince is the second book in the Infernal Devices trilogy, the first one being Clockwork Angel. So this series is sort of a prequel to the Shadowhunters, or to Mortal Instruments. It takes place in the Shadowhunter world in London, and it starts out in, it takes place in the 1800s, or the later 1800s, and there's Tessa, who is the main character, and there's Will and Jem, are kind of the main characters. It takes place at the London Institute. It's a very good series. I really like the series, as well as the Mortal Instruments. So, anyways, this book is just continues their adventure, and I can't wait to see how it ends, because this book is really good. If you want to see my book talk for the first book, Clockwork Angel, click the eye up here. Or if you want to see my book talk for the first three Mortal Instruments books, click the eye up here as well. So, anyways, if you haven't read this book, yeah, you should probably leave now, because I'm going to talk about it and I don't want to spoil any of you guys. So if you haven't read the book, leave now and come back and we can talk about it, because it's a very good book and I can't wait. And you guys should go read it if you have not. Read both of them. So if you haven't read it, bye. Okay, so the book starts out with Will going to get something from Agnes, and then they go to Will and Tessa and Jem go to a council meeting with Charlotte and them, and then Benedict, he stands up and says that Charlotte is not fit to run the Institute because she let a spy in there without even her knowing, and how that Sophie and Tessa should be trained because the other servants had died, even though they were trained and Thomas had died fighting. But, and so the council says that the child has 2 weeks to get the Magister, and if not, she might not have that head of the London Institute anymore. And then Benedict says that he'll have Gabriel and Gideon, his 2 sons, train Tessa and Sophie. So after getting that news, they go and start searching for things about Mormon to find where he might be, because he had ran off, literally disappeared. They had to go and find out where he was, if anything, and they figured out that he might have a grudge against Shadowhunters because he wanted recompensation for something and he never got it. So after the first, they figured out that he had sent one of those, saying that his parents, his adopted parents, who were warlocks, the Shades people, he had said they had been wrongly murdered, and so that's one of the reasons he has a big grudge against Shadowhunters. And then they have and Sophie and Tessa have the first training session with Gabriel and Gideon. So they figure out about the Shades. Charlotte sends a letter to Louis Starkweather, who's the head of the York Institute, and asks him about the Shade incident, and he doesn't tell them anything. So they decide that Will, Tessa, and Jem are going to go to the Institute to try to figure out what they can. So they go on a train there, and Tessa honestly just wants to go because she's never traveled. And so they go, and eventually, when they get there, he originally wants to send them away, but then he sees Tessa and he decides to let them stay. So he tells them about the Shade incident, that they had been killed because they thought they had clockwork creatures like the ones that kind of like Axel was building or Mortmain. And so they had killed him because they had possession of the Book of the White as well. And then he had sent that. And then later he showed them his trophies of what they had gotten from Downworlders after killing them. And Tess was completely disgusted by it. And on the way back, after they get back, and then he tells them about Ravenscar Manor, where he used to live, and so they go check it out. And there, while they're waiting, Will sees his sister Cecily on the hill, and then a clockwork creature comes and warns them that they should stop looking. So they go back and they figure out, and Will runs away as soon as they get home, or off the train, and he goes to Magnus, and he tells him about the curse that he has. He's been trying to have him raise demons, so he tells him that when he was 12, he opened a Pyxis in his father's library, and let out a demon who wanted revenge on his father, so he's like his son would do. And his sister Ella came in. His older sister was Seraph Blade, and tried to banish the demon, and the demon cursed Will. He said, "All who love you will die. It may be moments, it may be years, but they will die," and starting with her. And the next day, the demon left. The next day, he woke up and found that his sister Ella was dead, and she was like swelled up and she was like green. So he ran off to the Institute, and that's why he became a shadow hunter, kind of, because he wanted to distance himself, since everyone that loved him would die. So he didn't want anyone that loved him. That's why he has this kind of personality that he does. So, back at the Institute, they told him about it, and Tessa had gotten a button so she could change into Starkweather to try to figure out anything else in his memories. So she tries to change into him, and she sees a bunch of different flashes of memories. She sees a Shade incident of John Shade. He came out with Mortbane and the Clockwork creatures, and he was saying that he would have a Clockwork army or Clockwork empire, and that Mortbane would be the Clockwork prince. And so, and then it showed a scene of like the dead warlocks and like the house destroyed. And then it also showed when he first met Tessa and his shock at seeing her. Because I really want to figure out what that's about, since it made me start thinking, because later on, since he looks like her mother, so maybe he knew her mother somehow, because later on the fairy comes up and says that she looks like her mother. And so they figure after that, she goes back and and everything. And later on, they're at a training session with Gideon and Gabriel, and Will came with her probably mostly because it would really annoy Gabriel, since he hates Will. It's because eventually Tess figured out that when he was younger, Gabriel's sister Tatiana had a crush on Will, and wrote about it, and Will had found her diary and began to read it out loud in front of everyone. And so Gabriel went up on stage to try to fight Will off to make him stop, and then Will ended up breaking his arm. So ever since then he hated him. And anyways, so he starts saying horrible things, and then Sophie ends up slapping him, which is amazing in my opinion because Gabriel's annoying. And then he storms off and doesn't want to come into then they figure he won't want to come back, and so Tessa tries to go after him, and Will goes after her, and Tessa gets mad because she sees that Gideon likes Sophie, and so she doesn't want them to be left alone. And then Will says that Sophie's fine, and shows them that Gabriel already left, so there's no need. So they go into the drawing room and they're talking, and Tessa tells Will that what he did the night before, because he had asked Magnus to bring him into the demon world so he could find the demon and kill it after that whole incident with Starkweather. And so, and then Tessa had gotten a note that said this wasn't a normal absence, so he had been gone for a while. And Jim and Tessa had gone to found him in a kind of an opium den, and he was on the stuff laying in the bed, and so they had to bring him back. And Jim got mad and punched him in the face, which was also really funny. And so they talk, and then Tessa was telling Will how that had hurt Jim, and he thought he was making a mockery of the sickness, and he didn't like that. And they're talking and everything, and he says that he should make Jim apologize to Jim and everything. And then Roosley Scott, who's the head person of the werewolf clan, came in because Will had told Charlotte that he saw werewolves there buying stuff, and says that they would help them work all day and night. for Mortman, and he was talking to them, and he told them that there was that Mortman had come to him and asked him if he wanted to be a part of the Pandemonium Club, and he had said no, and that there were some werewolves that didn't have a pact at all, and so they were probably the ones working for him. And so after that, eventually they figure out, in the training room, Sophie and Gideon are talking, and Gideon says that he would like to see Sophie again because they probably won't have another training lesson. And Sophie doesn't think that's such a great idea. So, but later on, they figure out Tessa and Jim are talking, and they ended up going farther than that, and they ended up kissing. And she ends up knocking, because they're kissing each other, and it's kind of deep, and then he ends up knocking the powder off of the table, so he has to kind of get it out. And then Jim has Tessa leave because he doesn't want him to see her like that. So she goes back to her room, and then later on, Sophie comes in, and she says that she tells her that she found a note up to Jessime about a party of Benedict Lightwood's, and that she had seen her sneaking out at night dressed as a boy, and that she had knocked Jessie out with a mirror and tied her to the bed. And so they go back to the room, and she sees that, and they figure out that they have to tell Wick. She doesn't want to tell Jim or Charlotte. They tell Will, and Will's like, "You did this?" And so they decide that Tessa's going to go to the party as Jessie, dressed in the dress that Nathaniel wants to go on, because to figure out it's Nathaniel that went on the back of it. And so she goes as Jessie with Will kind of with her. And at the party, Nate's talking to her and they're dancing. And they figure out, and they're talking and he's saying that they're too weak to do any harm to Jessie if they figure out what she's doing. And they see Benedict up to his nasty tricks and with a demon woman. And then they're talking, and Nate's saying that when figure out Mortman is controlling Benedict, and that when he gets the Institute, they're going to charge Tessa for having illegal magic, and Jessie hide the book for her, the Book of Light, in her room, so that she could be charged with that. And then Tessa acts like she's dizzy and she needs a drink, and so she asks Nate to get her some of the lemonade stuff, and he goes and gets it. And a fairy comes up and talks to Tessa. She says that she has eyes like her mother and she looks like her mom, and so it makes her swear that she lost her disguise, although the fairy says she can see through it. And so they're talking, and she tells her about changelings, how when their bloodline is weak, then they used to steal a human child, and they leave a weak one of the fairy children in their place, and so that their bloodline continues to go strong. And Tessa's like, "Wait, is that what I am?" And she's like, "No, you're not." And so she leaves, and Will comes over, and was like, well, she wanted to tell me that I'm not changed. She's like, "Good, process of elimination," which is kind of funny. And so, after Nate comes back with her lemonade, she takes a drink of it, and one small drink, and then everything kind of looks weird. And Nate gets summoned by Mortman, which Will actually sent. And so Will sees that after he leaves, she sits down, and Will sees that Tessa had changed back into herself, and so they quickly go to a balcony where they start kissing, and they figure out, because he had down the whole drink, so they figure out that they had warlock powder in it, and then they're kissing, and Magnus came out and saw them. And he's like, "Okay, you guys want to get out of here?" Because he wanted them to be able to leave. He's like, "I want to be able to cash in the debt that you owe me, Will." So he uses magic, and he puts them on the thing, and they see the demon, and the demon that Will had been hunting for, he was like, "You," and he finds the demon that he's been trying to find that cursed him. So he ran after it and chased it, and then they went home. And after Jessie woke up, they started questioning her, and she says that she's been meeting with Nate in secret for a while, and that he had proposed to her, and they were married, and saying how that the Axel was gonna beat them, and that I wouldn't be able to beat Mortmain, and that Nate was going to have enough money, trying to get enough money so they could go live together, and said that Tessa's father was a demon, that her mother was a shadow hunter, which was impossible because Will had told her that they were stillborns if they had a baby that was a demon and a shadow hunter next, which makes sense because demon and an angel. But and so after Will had shown up at Magnus' house, and he was happy because he had gotten a tooth from the demon and it had bit him, so that they'd be able to summon it. And he was so happy, and he gave it to Magnus, like, now you can find it. It's like, it might take a while. It's like, oh, but I'm not really patient. I think it had poison, and so he faints. And Magnus has to help him. And they send, Jessie gets taken by one of the Silent Brothers to the Silent City and locked in the cage. And later, Camille comes back, the vampire, comes back with Magnus and sees her there. And Magnus figured out that she was with another person, another guy. So he gets mad and is saying that he's with another guy too, and he's with Will because Will was asleep on his couch and after he healed him. And and he's like, Will, wake up, and he woke him up, and he kissed him. He's like, and then they leave with Camille's like, how dare you do that in my house? Leave now. So he leaves and was like, did you kiss me? And he's like, no. Sometimes they can have hallucinations from the healing. And he's like, okay. So he believes that, and then he leaves. And after they decide that they want to try to get Nate, so they want to have Jessie help them by writing a letter to Nate. So they go and they eventually get her to do it for them. And Nate, so they go and plan to meet Nate, and the other shadow hunters are going to wait. Will, Jim, Charlotte, Henry, they're going to be there in the place as Tessa goes to Jessie and talks to him so they can catch him. And so they get him. They go to the place, and they find, first the shadow hunters go, and so they go and they sweep the area, and they find a dead werewolf on the ground, a dying werewolf. And he tells them that first the drug was amazing and that they could work on it all day and night to keep them up and keep them awake for a long time. And then they figured out that it started killing them, and so he was saying that he would just die there instead of somewhere else. And so when Tessa gets there as Jessie, Nate immediately had figured out, he said that he figured out that it was Tessa from the note, the wild goose chase, and the gigantic clockwork creature comes out of the shadows that's 20 feet tall, and it has Charlotte in its hand, and so it drops her, and Nate is saying it's not his sister and everything, and I figured out that Aunt Harriet, they have a battle, and Henry sees that Charlotte's down, so he goes and tries to attack it, and it just attacks him, and then Will and Jim start attacking it, and Henry had made a device that would stop the mechanism from working, stop the creature from working. And so Jim tried to use it after being flung off the creature. He tried to use it, but then it didn't work, and it rolled onto the floor, and Tessa tried to grab it, and Nate grabbed her. So she transformed into Nate, and he let go, and she grabbed it and threw it to Will. And she was telling the clockwork creature to get Nate, and eventually it did that because said she was Nate. She's like, I'm Nathaniel Gray, come get this man. And so Will finished getting the thing on her, on the creature, and it had grabbed Nate, and then it exploded, and Will covered Tessa with his body so that she'd be safe. And after that, she sees that Nate had gotten stabbed by something and that he was dying. He was saying, she asked him why he said that her mother was a shadow hunter, and she's like, yeah, you would like to know. And saying that Aunt Harriet was his mom, told all this, and that That's why one of the reasons she killed him, because she didn't want him, obviously. And so they had different parents and they weren't related at all. So that's why it wasn't his sister. And they left, and she went over, after he died, she went over and saw that Will was hurt because he had gotten a bunch of metal in his back from the blast. And they couldn't use a healing wound because it would heal over the metal and it would be stuck in him. And so they go back to the house, and before that, Jim saw Tessa had a gigantic gash on her forehead, and she didn't even notice it. And she like touched it and felt it, and then from all the shock and everything, she just fainted. And so they brought her back to the institute where she like fell in and out of consciousness. And she at one point saw Jesse in her cell saying that now she had nothing left because she had figured out he had died, and that everything kind of, and then the ring she gave him was a fake. The ring he gave her was a fake. And so they go, and Tessa wakes up at one point and sees them pulling the metal out of Will, and after that they put a healing ring on him. And then she wakes up a little bit later and sees Will sitting there, and there's food and like a drink. So she drinks the drink. She thinks this is a dream, so she leans into Will and like leans against him and hugs him. It's like, you can do whatever you want, this is a dream. And then Will, he goes over to Magnus because he had gotten a thing that said a card that said an address on it. And so he goes to the address, and they summon the demon, and it tells them about the curse thing. And Magnus like, wait, when you've been in there for 20 years, you wouldn't have power, so you wouldn't be able to give curse. And he's like, is it not real? He's like, okay, it's fake. And so Will, he's like, wait, I've been distancing myself from everyone, and it's all been a fraud for 5 years. Figures out all they've been doing all this time didn't even count for anything because it didn't actually curse. And so he goes home, and he's kind of happy about it. But he's also like, oh my gosh, I wasted 5 years of my life. He says Magnus that his life is over, although it's obviously not. But that his life, like, he wasted his life. He goes back home and he's like, I need to talk to Tessa. And Will had come in. So Jim that night had come into Tessa's room. Late that day had come into Tessa's room after she got back from the after she got out of the hospital area. Come in and said that he loved her, and asked her to marry him. And she said yes. So they were engaged. And Will was like, I need to talk to Tessa. And so they all had a meeting, because she runs to where Charlotte and Henry they had just had a conversation about how they actually did love each other, and they both love each other like the same. And she was gonna resign the institute to Benedict, and she's like, no, you can't. It's like, we need to have a meeting. So they went to the meeting, and afterwards they figured out that Sophie had told them that Benedict actually had demon pox, which Will had been talking about like a bunch in the first book and everything, and that they were actually real. And so he was kind of happy about that, and he was also happy with newfound ability, like to not have to push people away. So he was like giddy and singing a song about it, that demon pox were real. So that's what Mortman was holding over him. And so they decide that Tessa and Will and Charlotte were going to go to Benedict and blackmail him into saying that she's great at running the institute and everything. And so they go to the house, and they go to his house, and Gabriel and Gideon are there. Gabriel, Gideon, and Benedict are all there, and they're talking about his old tricks with the demon lady, and how his wife had actually killed herself because she had demon pox from him, because he had demon pox that were killing him. And Gideon was like, it's true, and he like left his family, so I had to go with them, and he's like, Josh said that she won't tell anyone about any of this. If he said that she did a great job running the institute, that he revokes his claim that she didn't, and that he revokes his challenge. So they leave, and Gideon comes with them, and the next day, they go to the council, and Charlotte holds some order sword and tells them about all that's happened in the 2 weeks of all that we've been doing. Leaves out a few details that didn't need to be in there. And tells them about Jessie, and they're like, see, so she didn't have a soft heart and she would do it. And Benedict's like, do you have anything to say, Benedict? And he's like, yes. I think they did a great job of wanting to dance to, and but they let all this happen. He's like, no, they did a good job. They figured out all this stuff that we needed to go to war. And she goes, and then these beetle creatures had come down, and they were like in the room, and they had ended up killing it. And then they were home to celebrate the fact that they got the Institute. And so Jem and Will and Tessa talked, because he said you need to talk to her. So they go into the drawing room, they talk. He starts kissing her, and she's like, no. And he's like telling her how she loves him, how he loves her, and told her about the curse. And then Tessa told him that she was engaged to Jem. And he's like, oh. He's like, please don't tell him about this. If you love him, please don't tell him. He's like, if you love him, then you'll make him happy. Then I'm okay with this. And so and then he's like, don't tell anyone about this. Next night, they go down for dinner, just they have a celebratory thing. And they have the celebratory thing, and Jem and Tess are walking together, and Jem's like, I have something to tell you, and he holds up the held hands. He's like, we're engaged, and everyone's like, no one says anything. Then right before Jem starts being not as happy about it, Will comes up and is like, there's no two better people that I want to see engaged and is happy about it, and everyone else starts being happy about it too. And then Charlotte says, she's like, I have news too. And she's like, that her and Henry are going to have a boy, though she's pregnant, which is super excited. I can't wait for that and everything like that, because I love babies, they're adorable. And so there's 2 really good pieces of news for them. And then they get a knock on there's someone, Thomas's brother, who's the new servant, comes in to tell them someone's there to see them. And it's a Nephilim, and she comes in, and she's like, I'm Cecilia Herondale. I want to be trained as a shadow hunter. So that Will's sister had come to be a shadow hunter too, just as he had. And then now it's good, which is good for him because it is his sister, and now he could actually let people love him. He didn't have to push them away anymore. So I can't wait to see what happens in the next book, Clockwork Princess. Can't wait to start reading it, and I really like this book. Make sure you comment your opinions down below, and thanks for watching, and like and subscribe. Bye.